Okay, so we are recording. So welcome everyone who is joining us today. We are on to our March spotlight. Every month this year, we're shining a spotlight on a different charity and some amazing people behind the charities just to spread the awareness in the GGC community. And I'm so delighted today to be joined by CEO and founder of Thriving Survivors, Ashley Scotland.
Hi Laura, thanks very much for having me.
No, not at all. Thank you so much for joining us, Ashley. I wondered if you could give us a wee overview of the charity. I know that it was founded in 2016, but if you could give us a wee overview of, the mission, the services you offer, and how it all came about.
Sure. So we founded, like you say, March 2016. So we'll be 5 this year, which is quite something. And I suppose, trying to really pinpoint the people that we work with is quite difficult because trauma is such a wide-reaching thing, and it changes every day. So we work with a range of different people, from survivors of domestic and sexual abuse to people who've faced a loss or a bereavement, right the way through to people who have had drug and alcohol problems. Because fundamentally, whilst the trauma and everybody's circumstances are different, there's a lot to be said for the common bond of trauma, and what brings us all together. And I think that's what we really try to capture at Thriving Survivors, is that feeling of being part of a community and being part of a family. And I think that shines through in the services that we offer as well. So one of the services we've got that's been so successful through lockdown was our 24-hour a day, 7-day a week hangout. And that's just a text function that allows a group of people to come together and just generally share their ideas, their thoughts, their feelings. And it's turned out to be one of the most amazing things to witness, as they've took it and really made it their own, with 2 different groups coming off the back of that. So they were a singing group just before Christmas where they got together and they sang carols, and then this time round they're doing creative writing. So it's just amazing to see how people can really grow beyond the trauma and actually start to find some sort of purpose and some sort of meaning. And I suppose that takes us right into what that vision is, and that's to ensure that we provide a centre of excellence for trauma affected individuals. So that's really quite wide-reaching. Regardless of your race, your culture or your circumstance, our doors are open and we're fully inclusive. So men, women, our doors are absolutely 100% open, and we're just there to lend a helping hand. The origins of the organisation, I suppose, and the core service is that Discovering Me programme, and that's a post-traumatic growth programme. So it takes people on a journey of discovering who they are as an individual after experiencing all these different things that have been on in your life. Sometimes people face multiple traumas and it just becomes more and more complex. So you can get lost within all that and you can lose your own point of view, that sometimes you maybe even never formed your own point of view, and it's a privilege to be part of people's journey when they're letting you see who they are. I think for the first time they recognise that as well. So it's an amazing organisation to be part of. I feel privileged that so many people have allowed me to be part of that journey and to sort of witness the growth that people go through. So just recently, in January, we launched our one-to-one service. So my big vision right from the very start was always to be able to provide a 3-stage trauma support programme that meant we took you right from that traumatic incident right the way through to when you were finding meaning and looking at, well, what does Ashley do now? Where does Ashley go from here? And everything's all under the one roof, all your services all under the one roof. That not having to recount your story over and over again, that's truly quite unique. So it's been a big year in terms of getting that big vision and pulling it all together. So 5 years in the making, but yeah, this year we launched our end-to-end service, fully inclusive 3-stage trauma support program, so complete wraparound service. But we're so busy, we haven't been able really to announce it, because it's one of those ones, as soon as you let everybody know, it's then how do we manage that level of support. So, but it's just amazing to be part of it. But yeah, that's who we are and what we do in a sort of rough nutshell.
Well, you're doing absolutely amazing work, and hopefully like this interview as well will help spread the word certainly in the GGC community as to all the amazing things that you're doing to help people. And how did it, obviously you founded it, Ashley, how did that come about?
There's a story. So I am a survivor of domestic violence and rape, and I had went through two of the stages, this 3-stage support program, if you like, with another support organisation. I really did. I went back and I faced the devil head on. You know, I faced my demons and I did the really difficult work, but it took me a long time, and it wasn't something that just happened in 8 weeks. That was 2 years of intense therapy, both in group format and one-to-one. So it was really quite intense, the work that I had done. But then I had came to the end of it. I'd faced the devil, you know, I'd been back, I'd dealt with the demons.
Yeah.
But then what was next? Where's my stage 3? If it's a 3-stage support program and it's a 3-stage theory, then where's that third stage? It's supposed to be stage 1's about safety and stabilization, stage 2 is about remembrance and mourning, and then stage 3 is about finding meaning. So where was my stage 3? And I think that's where I was at. So I decided that I would look into an Open University degree in psychology, just because I wanted to know more about the model of recovery. I wanted to know more about how my mind worked, you know, what made me function the way that I did. And I think once I started to do that, and I realised that actually I wasn't stupid, and I wasn't all the things that I had over time came to believe, and the things that people tell you can often really take that on board. So I think when I started doing the work in the psychology, I really recognised that there was somebody quite intelligent underneath, that there was an interest there. And then I found business, and well, I just feel like I've really found my calling, in terms of I never had any business knowledge prior to this, so it's been a real learning curve. But I suppose Thriving Survivors came to be through a lot of life experience, a lot of lived negative life experience, that I had a fire within me. Where's my stage 3? So I sit back and I think to myself, how can you do stage 1 and stage 2 and not offer somebody that third stage?
Yeah.
I seen a gap. I seen a massive gap, and I felt like Thriving Survivors was my stage 3. Yeah. That was my finding meaning. That was me finding meaning and purpose within the trauma, and choosing to define what that looked like rather than letting it define me. And that was really powerful. But yeah, it was a long process. But I suppose as I started to do the psychology, I learned all these hints and tips about mindset and emotional intelligence. I did my research, I did my reading, and I built that program. I built that post-traumatic growth program that's now one of my core services, and has supported over 600 people to date through that program. So it's really quite incredible. But I knew back then, so we're going back 7 years in the making now. So when I go right back 7 years, I remember saying to my husband, if this works for just one person, then it won't all have been in vain. And here we are. I went away and I built it, and I conquered the agoraphobia, which was probably the most difficult part of it. I still live with it, still feel it every day, but certainly being in control of it is all the power of the mind. And I suppose that's what I try and encourage in people, is it still works, just needs rewired, just ever so slightly, so as that it works for your favour rather than against you. And yeah, I suppose that's why we're here. I seen there was no stage free, so I went and I built it. I built a stage free, and now I offer all 3 stages all under the one roof. So
That's, I mean, what an incredible person you are. I have to say that right now, you really are. Just from hearing, you know, what you've gone on to do from your own trauma, it's, you know, you're a real inspiration. So tell us then, Ashley, you are spearheading a national consultation, Survivors' Voices. Can you give us a wee bit of information about that?
yes. Sure. So Survivors' Voices is a national consultation to understand the views of survivors of domestic and sexual abuse on the process of restorative justice in Scotland. So there is currently no service available for survivors like me in Scotland to go through that restorative justice process, if you like. There is an action plan that's currently being developed, and Scottish Government have funded this consultation to really gauge that understanding of survivors, which is really, really unique. For the first time, we're being consulted on before something goes live. So we're in a really, really unique position here for our voices to truly, truly be heard. And I think that's just a wonderful platform to have. And it's had an amazing response so far. I've got to say, people want to be heard. People want to tell their story, and they want to be listened to. And
Yep.
so Survivors' Voices is a platform to allow those voices to be heard, and not just heard, but influencing what comes next in terms of policy and procedure, and certainly practice. What does that look like in practice? So yeah, it's a very interesting project to be involved in, and it's got some good momentum going behind it as well just now. So
Brilliant. So can you, before we go into it a wee bit more, Ashley, can you give us an overview on what is restorative justice? Like, does it take different forms? Give us a wee overview on that.
okay, so no expert in the field, so you've got what I've researched in the past few months, but restorative justice is about bringing together the person who caused harm and the person who was harmed to try and find a way of healing and a way of moving forward. I've spoken to numerous people over the past sort of 3 or 4 weeks. It's been so interesting. I've spoke to people across the world in terms of this topic. Whether it's not available right now, so tell you what that looks like, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
But in other countries, you can have a face-to-face meeting, and it's a process. So that face-to-face meeting between the victim and the offender, as much as I don't like the language, that meeting between the victim and the offender doesn't take place overnight. That's a process where a specialist facilitator will mediate between, will go between each side, if you like, and only when all the proper risk assessments and all the other processes are completed properly will that meeting actually take place. So that's one way of doing it. I've also spoken with other people, and there's conferencing where you bring together more than just the victim and the offender. Maybe you've got the wider family, or you've got somebody was talking about the court, so having your judge there, and so other people that were involved in that case, and really having that conversation in order to try and heal some of the harm that's been caused. There's also the form of doing it a letter back and forwards, where you would never actually need to come face to face. So there is lots of different ways of doing this, but I think what's became clear to us is that domestic violence and sexual assault are very, very different, totally different spectrums. Therefore, what one method might well work for, say, child sexual abuse, might not work for somebody who's got a family with a domestic abusive partner. So they will need different methodologies. It's not a one size fits all, and that's became really clear to me just in the past few weeks. So yeah, it's been a really interesting process to be involved in. It's not an easy one to even start to explain, because I've now got more questions than I do answers, but that's why we're coming public. That's why we're coming to the survivors themselves. Is this something that you might be interested in? If it is, then what might that look like for you? How would that be safe? All these sorts of things we need to try and understand before a service like this is actually up and running. But we're in an amazing position to be able to influence what that looks like.
That's incredible. Amazing. So this Survivor's Voices kicked off a few weeks ago, is that right?
It did, yes.
And you've already been having lots of conversations.
Yeah, so we've had a focus group. We brought them together one evening, and that focus group lasted nearly 3.5 hours. It was just incredible. So the bravery of the people within that group to be able to openly tell their story and to be able to say, this is how this made me feel. We've really started something quite special, I think, and it feels like a movement almost of, whilst some of us will agree with restorative justice and some of us won't, we all agree that we should have that voice, and indeed we should have the choice as well. So there was that, although we're on different sides of the fence here, there was still that common bond between us, that community. That it was almost like it was a real special feeling in that room. So we didn't want to, you can't offer people a voice and then just stop the conversation. So we actually then invited them a second time. And again, we had an amazing attendance at that, and we actually had some other people join in. On the back end of that, now will be a regular weekly meeting of that group where they will pick up on one topic of conversation. So I think this week they are discussing restorative justice without a conviction. What would that look like? So that's what this group are coming together to discuss, these really thought-provoking, emotive issues. But with the freedom of being able to have their say in it. So it's just incredible. And the response from social media, again, Instagram's been absolutely amazing in terms of response. So yeah, it's all moving in the right direction. So we launch on Sunday with a live consultation. So can't believe we're so close already.
That's amazing. So tell us about the live consultation. What will that look like, a live consultation?
Okay, so it's a questionnaire, just to put it's just like a survey, and it'll come to people. You'll be able to get it on any of the social media channels. If you're on our distribution link, then it'll also go on to an email. If you've got your phone number, we can send you the link directly to your phone as a text message, and you just open it up into your browser and away you go. I think we've got 18 questions in there, plus your standard demographics. It shouldn't take you any longer than 10 to 15 minutes to fill it in, if that. You could really fly through it, but obviously we're hoping people will want to really express their feelings. But what we do recognise is that this will possibly trigger some people, and we want everybody to know that we are providing that level of support, that if you feel you're triggered by something, if you feel like you need some support, then please just contact us, and we'll make sure that all those contact details go out live with that consultation. As part of it, when you open up the link, so you click on the link and it will take you into this web page, if you like. In the web page, it will have a description of, this is what we're trying to do, this is what restorative justice is, at a very, very high level. But we'll also then have links in there that you can sign up to one of the information sessions. You can watch the information session that's been recorded on YouTube, and you'll be able to find all our myths and misconceptions on there as well. So all of that will all be on that introduction. As soon as you open up that document, it'll be right there in front of you. So you can click on any one of those links and it'll take you right in to any of the training sessions or anything that you want to know. And then you'll be able just to go right back to the webpage and fill in the questionnaire. We do want people to make informed choices, and that's why we're doing the big education piece and the run up. So we started on the 8th of February, but we'll run that right the way up until the close of the consultation, which is on the 25th of March. So it's 4 weeks to fill it in. It's a short time, but we're hoping to get 1,000 responses. And I know it's a really large number we've set ourselves, but if we want restorative justice to happen, then we need to let people know, and we need a large group of people to come forward and really help us get a feel for that. And on the other side of that, if we've got a large group of people that say we don't want this isn't right, then let us know so as that it doesn't happen. But let's not just let the action plan take shape without having influenced it first. And that's why we're here, because as survivors, our voice should be at the core of this. We shouldn't be discredited from the process because people think it's too sensitive an issue for us, or we might become re-traumatized. It should be about choice. A survivor of domestic abuse and sexual assault should have the exact same access to this service as somebody who's experienced a knife crime or somebody who's experienced a murder, a family murder. So it should be as equal for everybody, but it needs to be safe and it needs to have all those parameters in place. But we should influence what that looks like. So whether people agree or disagree with it, let us hear your voices. It's completely unbiased. We are sitting here, we just want to hear what people have got to say so as that we can ensure that influences what happens next.
Brilliant. Okay, amazing. So what I'll do is when we share this video, Ashley, I'll share the link beneath it, if that's okay, with your contact details, how people can get involved with the consultation, because I think it's a horrible figure, isn't it? But is it what 1 in 3 women are abused in Scotland? Is that the figure that I've seen? And
that's what sometimes you'll hear 1 in 4. I was speaking to Dr. Marie Keenan, who is in Ireland at the moment, and she put it to us that 95% of people who've experienced this sort of crime won't get a conviction. That's scary. It's beyond scary. It's disgusting that it sits like that, and there needs to be another process. There needs to be something. So for the 95% of us that never got a conviction, then how does restorative justice work for you? What does that look like for you? Is there some sort of restorative process? We need to know. We need to hear from people so as that we can really help shape what that action plan looks like next. But yeah, if you can share all those links and just lead people back to the education piece, then that's absolutely amazing. But ideally, people will be making informed choices. So go to the information sessions, watch the videos, get involved in the conversation, jump onto one of the social media channels and ask us a question. We're really responsive and we're here. We want to hear what people have got to say. Those focus groups are also open. If you want to come and be part of that conversation as well, then please join us, because the more people stand together, the louder the voice will be, and the louder the noise, and then people need to stand up and take note. I also am a firm believer in survivors offer hope. Survivors offer a light at the end of the tunnel for other people who aren't ready to step forward or who feel like they can't. You've got a community behind you. We are all here and we're all listening and we're all ready to support. So we hope that this goes on and becomes more than just about restorative justice. Hopefully this Survivors Voices platform will go on and its legacy will be that it provides that platform to have your say openly and publicly and in a way that's safe to do so, do you know, without fear of recrimination or backlash from anyone. So I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, but the more of us that can get involved in that conversation, the louder that noise will be. And I think people like it. I think people like the idea of being heard, whether it's about restorative justice or not. I think people just want to be heard, and I think we're offering something truly unique in this platform, and it's open to everybody. If you've got something to say, then come and say it. So
Wow, Ashley, I think what you're doing is amazing, and I'm sure it'll be a massive help to so many people. So anything that we can do to help platform what you're doing or just let more people know about it, we will. But thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about it today and give us an overview of all the brilliant things that you're doing.
but I really appreciate the platform to help us spread the news, you know, and spread the word that this is happening. So I really appreciate you giving me the time. It's very valued. So thank you very much.
No, thank you, Ashley. And we will talk to you again maybe at the end of the consultation, just to once you've got everything together, and we can maybe chat again then. I think that'd be really interesting.
Fantastic. That would be good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura.